One question that has been on the minds of many people is whether or not multiclassing will be in Baldur's Gate 3. It's a relevant question, because not every pen and paper campaign allows for it, and it's fundamentally optional when it comes to the conventional D&D 5th edition rules. However, all that said, many players do enjoy the option, and many dungeon masters permit it, so it's not out of the question at all that multiclassing could feature prominently in Baldur's Gate 3. The short answer to the question of whether or not there will be multiclassing in Baldur's Gate 3 is that we just don't know. However, I can provide a tiny anecdote that suggests to me that multiclassing might be planned for the game and is at least partially present in early access already. When I was mucking around with a mod that allows you to play the origin characters, I chose to try out Lizelle, but instead of picking Fighter upon character creation, I chose Ranger. So far so good, but when I had the option to level up, it forced me to level up as Fighter, but I had retained my level as a Ranger. Now, all this could just be a bug since you're technically not allowed to play origin characters and it is early access, so who really knows? However, it could also mean that multiclassing is in fact in the game. Or alternatively, it could be that the origin characters are simply bound to the class that they are bound to and there are no other options for them. But regardless, we need to understand how multiclassing works in 5th edition. The long and short of it is, of course, that when you multiclass, you gain access to the abilities of the new class you are acquiring. For example, a level 1 fighter that multiclasses into rogue at level 2 will gain access to sneak attack, and will be able to cause sneak attack damage under the same circumstances as any single class rogue. If you take another level of rogue, you will gain cunning action, and yet another level would yield a rogue archetype. Maybe you'll pick assassin. It sounds great on the face of it, but it doesn't come without costs. The biggest cost being the simple fact that you are not advancing your fighter levels, and thus losing out on the benefits of advancing that class's level, and high-level abilities in all classes are very good and very powerful. Like most things, it's a trade-off. But how does it work? Well, to multiclass, you need at least a 13 in the relevant attribute of the class you want to spec into. So that fighter who wishes to spec into rogue would have to have a minimum of 13 dexterity to do so. Or if he wanted to spec into wizard, he would need a minimum of 13 intelligence, and so it goes. Now, you don't get everything when you spec into a new class because certain things you gain, such as proficiencies, are based on the instance of first level character creation and not the class. So, in the case of our fighter who is specking into a rogue, instead of getting the whole smorgasbord of first level rogue proficiencies, which would be awesome, we have to admit, instead he would only gain one proficiency from the rogue class proficiency, as well as sneak attack. And spellcasting can get complicated with multiclassing, especially if you take multiple spellcasting classes. Your capacity for spellcasting depends partly on your combined levels in all your spellcasting classes, and partly on your individual levels in those classes. And if you have 2 or more spellcasting classes, you decide and prepare which spells you want to use individually. So a wizard cleric would decide as a wizard which spells he wishes to prepare and use as a wizard, and as a cleric which spells he wishes to prepare and use as that cleric, individually for each class respectively, as separate classes. With separate spell knowledge, total spell slots are a different story. You determine your available spell slots by adding together all your levels in the bard, cleric, druid, sorcerer, and wizard classes, and half your levels, rounded down, in the paladin and ranger classes. This is because paladins and rangers are not considered full casters. So for example, a level 3 bard, level 2 druid would be considered a 5th level caster in total, but a level 3 bard, level 2 paladin would be considered a level 4 caster for the purposes of spell slots available. And believe me, things can get endlessly complicated with multiclassing. Some people will want to multiclass for the express purpose of power gaming, looking for every exploit and possibility to max out character potential. And others won't. Myself, I generally prefer to roll with one class as mentioned prior and get those sweet high-level abilities and above all spells. And there's some other interesting questions, such as multiple dialogue options for, say, a bard barbarian. But who knows? It could be that multiclassing is just too involved for the game. It would entail too much work, as BG3 is already ambitious enough by the standards of most, and Lorien is trying to implement as much as possible. Although I personally prefer sticking with one class and wouldn't be a personal loss for me, I definitely would like to see multiclassing in BG3, if only for other people, so they can enjoy it and have as many options as possible. And as usual, time will tell. As always, thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, as it really helps out the channel, and I will check you out next time. Take care.